So I decided to tell the couture house that I wouldn't be coming back, and I'd been offered a position elsewhere. And so I didn't go back after that, to be honest. Which was risky, it really was. You know, I didn't have the Hawthorne and Heaney place official by any means. I just had this hope that it would work. And anyway, I decided that I was going to continue to just keep working at my part-time job and try and pick up some more hours there in the meantime, because I was also working at a bridal shop selling wedding dresses and consulting on bridal style. And so I decided I'd try and pick up some more hours there instead. And yeah, hope of all hopes that the Hawthorne and Heaney thing would come off. And a week or so later it did. Claire sort of came back to me with an agreeable offer, and I took it very willingly, super excitedly, to start working for them properly. And so that was, I guess, September. I graduated in the June, and I started working in Hawthorne and Heaney in the July. And then, yeah, I'd secured my part-time job, but a permanent job with them in September. And so then I was doing part-time there and part-time at the bridal shop, which worked pretty well for me. It meant I got 5 days a week work. And so I actually started to sort of, earn a little bit of money properly, which was amazing. And I thought, oh God, this really feels like I've made it, because I'm actually working in an embroidery studio with my embroidery degree. Like, this is living, I was so excited. And then things picked up more and more for us at Hawthorne and Heaney. They hadn't had in-house machine embroidery before I joined, because it had been purely hand embroidery based up until that point. So that was like a whole new area for them to explore with my skills, because my skills were mostly machine embroidery based at that time. And I continued to try and work hard for them, and it picked up, and then Christmas really picked up for us. And we got quite a big contract at the start of the following year, which allowed them to take me on full time. And since then, we've really not looked back. So then once I was working with Hawthorne and Heaney, I began to foster the hand side of my embroidery more and more. The hand embroidery was the foundation on which Hawthorne and Heaney was built. So trying to improve my hand skills was a real priority to make me more valuable to the business. And I learnt more about monogramming from the incredible hand embroiderer at Hawthorne and Heaney. She's still like the best hand embroiderer I've ever known. Her work is sublime. Like, you just can't beat it. Which does make working alongside her quite tricky, because it never looks as good as hers. It's never going to. And I think I've sort of come to terms with that now, a little bit, maybe not. But nonetheless, yeah, I got to learn a lot more about that side of things, and started to also develop classes for the school, new classes that they hadn't done before, with some of the skills that I could provide. And that was really how I got into teaching hand embroidery. I could already embroider, so I could teach the timbre class for them, as well as developing the lace classes that we offered and adding to the silk flower class range, because I'd learnt some other silk flower techniques in some of my other previous internships that I was able to sort of transfer and turn into a class. And so we added to the repertoire of school as well with some of the other things I knew. Which sort of brings us more to where we are now. Working on pieces like this, where I try and keep my monogramming skills in check. And teaching the online classes. And teaching has kind of provided me with a little bit of an unusual opportunity. I didn't really think I would be into teaching that much, to be honest. I've always been a little bit of more of a lone wolf on that front. But particularly when it came to the online classes, because I'd been doing all the social media for the school anyway, it sort of made sense for me to get involved with the online classes and work out how that was all going to work. And then with the pandemic happening when it did, that really sort of forced our hand to make it happen. And so that's what I was working on whilst we were all in lockdown and I was at home, and therefore able to really focus on producing the online classes with the support of my colleagues, making sure everything was on brand and keeping it in place and all that sort of thing. So yeah, that brings us to where we are now, really. And I've also found this real sort of enjoyment in creating videos, which also came as a surprise. I didn't really think this would be my thing. But I have always enjoyed stitching. That's always been a given. And over my time working in the industry, I have come to see that people really seem to enjoy watching people stitch. They seem to find it quite hypnotic or just interesting to watch something so small. And in a world where we are, so keen on things being immediate and everything being entirely virtual at times, doing something in your hands, making something that you really can't rush. It's going to kind of take as long as it takes. I think has a real beauty to it. So I'm quite glad to be able to take a little bit of time for myself to practice these skills and to document it in the form of these videos. And I wonder if you might be stitching along with me, wondering about my journey whilst you're working on your own, or do you just enjoy watching somebody else stitch? There is no right answer here. All the same, I'm really glad to have you join me. Perhaps you can let me know in the comments below what it is that brought you to this channel. If there's something in particular you'd like to see from me or know more about. I think perhaps I'll need to at some point revisit my uni time, as there probably, I think, is more to say about my time at uni and my time at LCF. But I think I'll save that for another day. So yeah, let me know what you'd be interested in knowing more about or what you'd like to see. People are often surprised that I do in fact stitch in my own time, as well as stitching at work. And you know, the truth is these things really do take practice, even if it is, you know, your profession and part of your job. You've got to keep those skills ready for use, and that doesn't just happen. So I do have to still practice like everybody else, particularly for if it's skills that I don't necessarily use every day. Then it's important to make the time to practice those things in my own time. I'm just working with one strand here today, and it's a combination of outline and stem stitch to create this single line. That combination of stitches does create a really nice sort of S-ing shape within the stitches. Each one leans on the previous stitch and the next stitch, and they sort of wrap around one another. Which I really like. I'd say this is probably my favourite line stitch. Of all the stitches. That makes me sound a little bit like Bruce Forsyth. With my favourite stitches. They're all my favourites, really. My favourites for different things. Like with most things, they've all got their purposes. Just coming around this little final E here. I think the trickiest thing about monogramming is trying to pick the angle of your stitches. And it's not a set thing, like there's no real rules about how to go about that. Choosing the right angle is just sort of something that comes with experience eventually. You may also have noticed me using this little tool here. It's called a stiletto, and it's a laying tool. So it's for laying thread to help you to sort of get it into the right space, the right angle, encourage it to be how you want it to be. So it's just about manipulating it into the right place. And a lot of time that's all the difference between like good stitching and great stitching, is just encouraging it into exactly the right angle. Just didn't quite have enough thread on that last piece to finish off this letter, so I've just started a new one. Should really help with the tension, having a new thread. It's got a little bit of fluff caught in there. So that brings me to the end of this piece for today. Join me next time when I work on the with Tasha part of this design. And if you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up below and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content like this. Thanks for joining me. I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.